I am gonna call this meeting to order at 6:02 PM. This meeting is being recorded by the Economic Development Committee. If any persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Ooh, there's a new notice on here. Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call of attendance. Counselor Garrett,
I'm here.
Counselor Gordon. Here. Counselor Healy,
Here.
Counselor Minhas,
Here.
and I am here. We need to approve the minutes from December 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Second, thank you. I think I have to do a roll call vote. All in favor. So I will do Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon. I abstained because I wasn't here. Hey. Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas.
Yes.
Okay. No. Okay, and I will take public comment. So if anyone is online, hold on, I see people in the waiting room. Okay, I will take public comment. If anyone online would like to speak, you can put your name and address in the chat and I will call you. But I'll call Joan Marie Jackson.
Good evening.
Good night.
Happy New Year to everyone.
Yep.
My name is Jo Marie Jackson, and I live at 2 Chestnut Hill. I attended the state public hearing last Friday, January 10th, on draft regulations for ADUs. I say at the outset that I do not comprehend why the city council is reviewing Greenfield zoning ordinance changes now, when the state of Massachusetts has not even published its final version of ADU regulations. I heard a number of people at that hearing complain that the draft regulation should be changed to make it clear that only single-family homes can add an ADU, not homes that are already 2 or 3 family dwellings. Jeff Lacey, a Conway land use consultant, testified that the draft regulations appear to be a misguided response to what he called, quote, years of frustration with local ordinances and bylaws that restricted many residential areas of municipalities solely to single-family dwellings, often on larger lots than appeared necessary. We don't do that in Greenfield. Our residential zones, like the RA zone I live in, allows a single-family, 2-family, and 3-family dwellings by right. Same as the suburban residential RB zone, the semi-residential SR, and we even allow 2 and 3 family dwellings in our health services district, our limited commercial district, and our general commercial district. We allow multifamily houses in all our residential districts by special permit. We do not have exclusionary zoning, like the woman from Pelham, who said her town has a minimum 2 acres for a lot in her town. I am troubled by our city's draft regulations, which say in section D2 on ADU standards that only 1 ADU may be created within a single family or 2-family house or house lot. The 2-family house should be deleted. Greenfield should only allow 1 ADU on a single-family lot. Note also that our new single definition of an ADU means that if I add a second self-contained housing unit inside a principal dwelling with sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities at a separate entrance through the principal dwelling, that's an ADU. It's not a duplex or a two-family home. It's a principal dwelling with an interior ADU. And I should not be allowed to add a second ADU on that lot. The state law says it applies to the use of land or structures for a single accessory dwelling unit. Our proposed ordinance has no definition of what a dwelling unit is. But the draft state regs say a dwelling unit is a housing unit for one or more persons. What's the occupancy limit for a 900 square foot ADU? Shouldn't we state the building code limit in our ordinance so we don't discover 7 or 8 people crammed into a home? Inflicting a one-size-fits-all mandate that supersedes the constitutional right of our cities, towns, villages to zone and enact comprehensive planning is ill-considered. Let us develop in a way that is compatible with each community's water quality, resources, transportation, and infrastructure needs. And I also ask if you table this until the state regs come out in February.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a couple more people on the meeting. I do just want to, so folks know, in case, I don't know, you have something better to do tonight. We do not have the ADU regulations on this agenda. What we do have on this agenda is the citizens petition for the ADU, which we have to move forward tonight because it's running up against the deadline for the process for zoning that we have to follow. So we do have to make a recommendation on that, but we do not have the ADU changes as written by our planning department on our agenda for tonight, just so everyone knows that. That is anticipated to be on February's agenda. So I will go to Stephanie Duclos online. Stephanie, you have 3 minutes. You're ready. Ian. Oops,
Sorry, I have a different phone. My phone is all messed up.
that's okay.
Stephanie Duclos, 166 Chapman Street. I'm speaking, I was also sitting in on and did give public comment in written form to the public hearing that Jo Marie Jackson was just talking about. As Al was there as well, and so was Mitch, and at least I think Susan might have been there, maybe another couple people from Greenfield. I did want to say that I urge you to vote no on the medical clinic, making that by right. I believe that is on this agenda tonight. I also support the comments regarding the ADU and the fact that the Milton case did support that the Attorney General can uphold, her authority. It, however, said that until those regulations are promulgated properly, the act is not enforceable. That's actually in the written case text of Milton. Also wanted to support bringing back the resolution Wahab has put forth. It's incredibly important that everybody understands what was voted on and what the rationale possibly was behind some of that. I know that it was a really convoluted conversation during the last city meeting, and it was really hard to follow on what exactly, after all the amendments were proposed, and what exactly was voted on. And I know that a few of you guys were, super tired or coming from illness, and congratulations, Garrett, on your new addition. And I know you're probably not getting very much sleep either. So I just wanted to, again, reiterate that, you do not consider medical clinics by use, by right. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mitch Spate.
As far as goes. Shipping. Yeah. Good evening, Mitch Spade. I live at 2 Chestnut Hill. I testified last Friday at the state's ADU regulation hearing. I heard citizens from the Cape to the Berkshires criticizing the vague language and overreach of the housing and livable communities ADU language that goes beyond statutory language. One former planning board member
We have to leave it open because it's a.
warned there are also dangers that implementing regulations can stray into legislative creep by trying to insert substance where the legislature left it out. Massachusetts is a home rule state where the zoning powers reside at the city and town level. Any narrowing of this authority is a serious matter, especially if accomplished by regulation rather than by direct action of the legislator itself. Several citizens said that for the purposes of these regulations, the words principal dwelling should be defined to mean a single-family dwelling only. 2-family, 3-family dwellings, and multifamily dwellings, apartment buildings, and even commercial buildings with an internal apartment goes way beyond the legislative intent to provide an alternative to exclusively single-family zoning district. Instead of implementing the new state law, what Housing and Livable Communities has done is unlawfully extended what the legislator established. I said at the hearing that the use of the words reasonable and unreasonable throughout these regulations are arbitrary and capricious because they are unmeasurable and therefore subject to varying interpretations from municipality to municipality or court to court. Is the state going to open an office of unreasonable regulations to handle city appeals? I am also concerned that our draft ordinance eliminates the requirement for a site plan review for a lot that will now have 2 dwellings on it instead of 1. Our site plan review ordinance requires design features which will integrate the proposed development into the existing landscape, maintain neighborhood character, enhance aesthetic assets, and screen objectionable features from neighbors and roadways. Our site plan review approval regs evaluate the provision of open spaces and protection of historic features and design, which does not detract from properties in the area. I do not want neighbors to see us lose these protections. State ADU law allows cities to include reasonable regulations, including but not limited to site plan review. I urge the city council to go back to the September 26, 2024 version of our ADU ordinance to require a site plan review for any detached ADU. Again, this is a blatant attack by the governor to end single-family zoning as we know it. This is a debacle, not only governmentally, but politically. Wrong-headed. Thank you.
Thank you. And Al Norman.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Al Norman. I live on Grinnell Street. 105 voters in Greenfield filed a zoning amendment designed to limit the density of small lots and prevent the overcrowding of structures. Our zoning ordinance defines open space as, quote, ground space other than that occupied by structures. One of the purposes of our zoning is to facilitate the adequate provision of open space, unquote. That doesn't just refer to a vast open meadow or parcels of 5 acres or more. Open space is part of all of our properties. We ask the city to consider setting a threshold floor for a small lot of half an acre. That's a parcel with 21,780 square feet or larger. We propose that half of that minimum lot, or 10,890 square feet, would be open space for a pollinator garden, a child's play area, or just a natural landscape. That leaves roughly 10,000 square feet for primary dwelling footprint and a 900 square foot ADU and an impervious driveway for cars. If half an acre is too high for you, a threshold, come up with your own definition of what a small parcel is. A quarter of an acre? We have the right to impose dimensional limits on land use. Such issues as minimum lot size and open space are a legitimate part of greenfield zoning, as legitimate as setbacks, frontage, and height. We should have the design control to say which lots are too small for a second dwelling. If you add a second home, we believe open space should go from 40 to 50% to stress the importance of preserving open space close to neighbors. Greenfield zoning has moved way beyond single-family residential enclaves. My neighborhood has many historic homes, a century or older, that once was nearly a single-family district exclusively. Today, it's a mixed zone of 2, 3, and multifamily homes, condo clusters, a 9-story high-rise, and social service group homes like the one right next to me. Massachusetts courts have said that home rule gives cities the rights to, quote, regulate the use of land, buildings, and structures to the full extent of their independent constitutional powers. The state is now taking away the power to limit the use of land and giving themselves the power to protect land uses like solar, battery storage, accessory dwelling units from local zoning. So don't dismiss the ideas in citizen petitions. Work with your constituents to prevent the state from painting us into a dense urban corner. And the reason I'm urging you to table this motion is that the regs aren't final. And I would like, Madam Chair, the record to show that I was objected to the fact that City Council has apparently stated that the citizens petition does not meet the statute and that we don't have an opportunity to rebut that. So that document has not been made public, and for it to be used as a weapon against us is simply unfair. And I will state that in a separate letter to the full council, that I don't want to be told that we have a ruling or a decision from the city attorney that has not been made public. That's not how we should be doing things in Greenfield, really. I mean, put the table down. Don't make me go to a public records request to find out what this lawyer is recommending. I have reasons to rebut the fact that dimensional limits like the ones we're proposing are in fact legitimate and reasonable and not unreasonable to impose on a lot that has become a 2-home lot instead of a 1-home lot. So I don't want, I want to protest that you were kind enough to tell me that that's something that you've received, but I want to protest that should not be part of this hearing unless it's been made public for us to rebut. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. We do not have any, I just want to make sure no one else online would like to speak. The public. Okay. We do not have any public hearings tonight. So, I'm going to read order number FY 25-038. And this is the city council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield Economic Development Committee take from the table order number FY 25-024.2, amend the zoning ordinance chapter 200, section 200-48, mixed residential business uses by striking subsection A in its entirety and replacing it with language in bold as follows in attached exhibit A. Amend section 200-48 mixed residential business uses of the zoning ordinance to allow first floor dwellings in mixed use lots by amending section A so that it reads as followed. Striking all dwelling units shall be above the first floor level, the street level which faces the street with the highest traffic use, and adding first floor dwelling units shall not be allowed along the street side with the highest traffic use. And further amends the table of contents and index of the code. And further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield, which was tabled at the December 10th, 2024 Economic Development Meeting. So, second, thank you. And I think now we have to all vote to take this from the table. So if you are in favor of taking this from the table, please say yes. If not, say no. Counselor Garrett,
Yes. Sorry, yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Healy.
No.
Okay. Counselor Minhas,
No.
okay, I'm a yes. So the motion is now on the table. I do not have to read it again. I checked that before I came. So this motion, we have to do something with. We have to move the process forward to follow the zoning ordinance procedure, which our deadline is February 5th. So we have to make a recommendation in this meeting. I don't know what we would do if we didn't vote to take it from the table. I would not know what to do. So, we did receive a recommendation from the planning board on this, which was at its November 7th meeting, the planning board, after deliberation, took a vote. And it was 5-0 to forward a positive recommendation to the city council to amend section 200-48. I'm gonna give everyone a chance to talk. I will say, I did a lot of research between last month, when we tabled this and this month. I have a number of amendments I would like to make to this, which I think are substantive. So I'll share those amendments that, just for the sake of people knowing like what I'm probably gonna present next month. But, I read through like Billerica, Northampton, Concord, Lexington, a few others, and there was some really good things in there, and I think forwarding a positive recommendation or passing this as it is not doing diligence to what we need in the central commercial district. Some of the other things that were covered were like safety, lighting, parking, sound. One ordinance had a specific line that like the only thing that could be built on first floor was handicap accessible units could be granted, not Main Street facing. There also was like floor area ratio, which I don't understand that unit of measure, but like we could have a square footage ratio to say like this percentage must remain commercial on the Main Street facing area. Northampton also breaks up their downtown in an interesting way that we could think about writing into like which areas of Main Street and Federal. So things like secure entrance, sharing common walls, maximum and minimum commercial area. So I am going to vote against this so that we start this process over and can amend it to more properly reflect, I think, what downtown needs to maintain businesses. Anyone else would like to speak on it?
Yeah, I'm gonna say so. I know you guys have heard my thoughts about this before, and I think we can come to a compromise. I like the idea, Councilor Bullock, that you proposed of like a percentage type scenario where you have either like a 60-40 type thing, or it can be on square footage of how much commercial activity needs to be there. I just want there to be a priority for the commercial district to be a commercial. and so that it can support our local businesses and the opportunity for new local business to be able to go in. Um, Other than that, yeah, I think if we can work together on this and come up with something better other than just a complete carte blanche, we can go forward with that.
Great.
So I am also inclined to vote this down in the form it stands, not because I think this is a carte blanche, I don't. I actually think this is a major net improvement to what currently exists. So in the central commercial district right now, you're allowed to have a building that's entirely residential. You're allowed to have a building that's mixed use. You can't combine them. So I fully stand behind this and, because it would allow a compromise effectively. And because this committee has an interest in making it better, better is better than just an improvement. And so I will also be voting no on this as far as, a positive recommendation, because I think if we take the time to, take some of the improvements that Councilor Bullock mentioned, what you just said, Councilor Minhas, especially we work with the planning board who way back in December, and again, as Stephanie mentioned, in a very sleep deprived state, I sent the planning board an email asking, like, after our discussion at EDC, hey, could you discuss this further? No votes, not a formal process. And so this Thursday, they're actually going to be talking about this. And so since they meet after us, and since we have to talk about the ADUs later anyway, it makes a ton of sense to me to kind of do them both at the same time and continue this work. So I really appreciate what you said there, Councilor Minhas, about trying to find a compromise without compromising the, goal of this, which is accessible housing on the first floor. I really love the idea of, potentially restricting it, or maybe like a density bonus or something,
Yeah,
like some sort of reward for building accessible housing.
yeah,
One of the things that was mentioned last month was the idea like, well, what if, this is at a planning board meeting, but what if the owner of a business just wants to live there? I think that would be great too, but privileging the accessibility, I think also makes a ton of sense.
yeah,
And so like thinking about the cluster development ordinance, if there's a way to give people an incentive to do so. But
yeah, there was language like that in some of them, so we can discuss.
Yeah.
Next month.
no, I think we could have a really productive discussion about how to improve this.
Yeah,
And so I'm fully in support of letting this version of it die on the assumption that everybody is acting in good faith, which they are.
Yeah.
So that's fabulous.
oh, I just,
Yeah, I did. Before I just lose this train of thought, I know people want to speak. I definitely do support specifying it for accessible housing, because that was one of the reasons why. And I think it just kind of assuming that the market would do that. I think, I don't know, the way no, that just, I mean, maybe they.
I think he said you can't assume the market's going to build accessible units.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
basically his point.
Sorry, you broke up a little bit there,
Yes.
Councilor Minhas.
yeah.
Yeah,
Counselor
that's
Healy,
Councilor Garrett summarized it.
great. Counselor Healy, did you have something?
Yes, please. Yeah, so I also agree with this. I'm going to vote no. I think more thought should go into it. I do like talking about the ratio, like a 60-40 ratio. I think that's very feasible. And I also like the idea of restricting it to accessible housing in that area. I think that's something we need in Greenfield, and I think that would be a good compromise. I also would suggest, and Councilor Garrett mentioned it, housing is allowed by right in that district. I think we should maybe go back and look at that and kind of do the same thing and say, mixed use by right with a 60-40 split on the first floor. But I really don't think we should be allowing new housing to be built in the central commercial district at all. It should be maintained for the city to, have a robust business center. And that's my belief on it. And we'll leave it at that. I think we should just strike this down and kind of get together collectively and try to come up with some sort of agreement that makes sense and doesn't feel rushed. Thank you.
Great.
There's someone in the waiting room.
Oh,
There's, I actually don't know how to do it.
They
I
should
just
just
learned.
be popping up here.
That's what I thought.
Oh,
Oh,
there we
there
go.
they are. Okay.
Okay. Counselor Gordon, did you have anything that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think, I'm very swayed by what's been said and happy to agree on, not recommending that this go forward in this form. So, thank you everyone for the the work that you've done and the research that you did on this. You know, I definitely was ready to come in and vote yes to recommend it. I'm certainly compelled that the planning board, you know, gave us a unanimous recommendation to do this. I'm definitely compelled by the argument that we need as much housing as possible, especially accessible housing. And to my knowledge, we don't have a lack of commercial space available in Greenfield right now. So from kind of watching the recording of the meeting last month and hearing what people are saying, I'm not terribly compelled by the argument that we need to prioritize that over accessible housing, but it sounds like we're actually all in agreement about that and just strengthening this so that we can hopefully get the best of both worlds. So
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
great. Okay, so I am gonna move us to a vote on order number FY 25-024.2. And this we need a majority vote for. So, this is in favor, you're in favor of this, you're a yes. You're not in favor, you're a no. Counselor Garrett.
No.
Counselor Gordon.
No.
Counselor Healy.
No.
Counselor Minhas.
Nope.
I am also a no. So we have 5 on negative
You
recommendation.
state what you just voted on, not.
Yep, it was the one that I read at the beginning. It's order number FY 25024.2, which we took from the table.
So on page 14 of the packet.
And it was to amend section 200-48, mixed residential business uses of the zoning ordinance to allow first floor dwellings and mixed use lots by amending section A so that it reads, and it was striking, all dwelling units shall be above the first floor level, the street level, which faces the street with the highest use traffic, which is what our current zoning law is, and adding first floor dwelling units shall not be allowed along the street side with the highest traffic use. So we all voted not to make that change to section 200-48 and to give a negative recommendation to the council for that zoning to change.
That's perfect. What you just said is what should happen every time you vote. Thank you.
Okay, so now we are going to move to order number FY 25-039. The city council moved that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council take from the table order number FY 25-025, amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, section 200-14, Central Commercial District, by adding language in bold and by deleting language in strike through as followed in the attached exhibit A, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantial changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of conduct, the code of the city of Greenfield, which was tabled at the December 10th, 2024 Economic Development Committee meeting. This is a majority vote required. And for folks to know, it strikes through number 7 under uses for special permit, medical center, clinic, including accessory research, and removes it from the uses by special permit and then renumbers all the other things that do need a special permit. So this is a vote to take this from the table. So just to be clear, I don't have to reread the motion before we vote again because I read it to take it from the table.
I will second the motion.
Thank you. And if you are in favor of taking this from the table, Counselor Garrett?
Can I just ask a quick, so if we don't take it from the table because the public hearing date already happened, wouldn't it just die automatically?
It does die, but then this is where we should read this thing. Like if it dies, can it not be brought back in a,
2 years.
yeah,
Unless there's a recommendation from the planning board, which in this case there wasn't.
right, it was a negative recommendation, right? So
Right.
in this case, we could, depending on how you feel about this issue, you could vote to not take it from the table if we don't have a majority vote to take it from the table, it would die. Actually, I thought this one didn't need a majority. I thought it just needed 2/3, but it says majority, so
It's majority to take it from the table, but it needs.
2/3 to pass.
Yeah.
Okay, So we need a majority vote to take it from the table. If we don't take it from the table, it dies and cannot be brought back for 2 years, I believe. If we take it from the table, we then make a positive or negative recommendation, and it could be brought back in another form. So, Counselor Garrett, would you like to take this from the table?
I'm sorry, just to clarify one more
Yeah.
time. If we don't take it from the table, it can come back, right? Is that what you just said?
If we don't take it from the table, I
Can't
believe
come
that it cannot come back.
Then I will vote no.
You do not want to take this.
I do not.
Okay. Counselor Gordon, would you
Yes.
like to take this? Okay. Counselor Healy,
No.
Counselor Minhas.
No.
Okay, so we do not have a majority vote. So we are not taking this from the table. And that brings us to page 22. Okay, this brings us to order number FY 25-026. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, section 200-7.18, accessory dwelling units, subsection C, applicability, paragraph 1, by adding the following language in bold. 200-7.18 accessory dwelling units amended by the city council on May 20th, 2020. See applicability. 1, an accessory dwelling unit within and an accessory dwelling unit attached shall require a site plan review by the planning board prior to construction. As part of the site plan review, the planning board shall determine that the total land area of the parcel submitted for the addition of the accessory dwelling unit shall not be less than 1/2 0.5 of an acre. The net acreage of total land in a parcel minus all dwellings included in the proposed accessory dwelling units, internal roads or driveways or other buildings or developments shall be considered open space and shall comprise at least 50% of the parcel. All accessory dwelling units shall meet the minimum setback requirements for the district in which it is located. ADUs shall not be used for short-term rentals, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and that further non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. Majority vote required.
Second.
Thank you. This is the citizen petition that was brought to us for the public and I guess my fellow counselors who might not have checked their email today. We do have we received a legal opinion that the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance for ADUs that were proposed by the citizens would violate a section of the Affordable Homes Act that takes effect in February. And the opinion recommends that we review our current ordinance to ensure that it complies with the act, because it also currently does not. So this, in my view, this discussion is a moot point. If we were to pass this, we would be in violation of the state law, which we are supposed to be complying with by February 2nd. We will not comply with it by February 2nd because we have withdrawn the last ADU ordinance that was proposed, and we'll have a new one reintroduced for February after the state regs come down and we have a full picture. So I would advise my fellow counselors, I'm going to vote against this because it is not in compliance with state law, and we do have a duty to make sure that we are following the law. Counselor Minhas.
Point of
So-
clarification. Point of clarification.
Yes,
Sorry.
If you,
I actually am not supposed to take public comment outside of public comment. I'm sorry. I will happy to talk to you after the meeting.
it's just about, it's a process question, not about what happens if you table it,
It dies.
and then what? Can you brought back, can you amend it, can you make changes?
I believe if it dies, then we cannot bring back something similar for 2 years. So, and there might be something that like supersedes that with state law, but I don't know.
Unless the planning board recommended it, which
Right.
they did.
They did. Yeah.
I think what happens, since it's a citizen petition, if we table it and it dies, then it moves on to the next step, which requires more signatures.
Oh, right.
I think that's how
Yeah.
it's written. Yep. It automatically moves on to the next step.
Right. And the bottom line with this is that we cannot propose things that conflict directly with state law. So I just want to make that clear to my fellow counselors. Counselor Minhas, I'm sorry for.
No
Yeah.
worries. I just have a question. So what happens if we do? What are the ramifications of that?
If we do pass it,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
I think the attorney, the AG could sue us if
Yeah.
something, like that's what happened with Milton, right? When they didn't pass the MBTA communities stuff.
They're still in a lawsuit,
Right.
right? Yeah.
No, it was decided by the SJC
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Okay.
that's what Stephanie
in
said.
favor of the state.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so either way, the state does not have regulations out, yet. That's why we withdrew the ordinance that was proposed, to reintroduce something that was more appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd just like to talk a little bit about why I would support this. And what specific things I like about it. I mean, one of the things that I think is really important is to preserve the natural landscape and the environment that we have. But also, I think it's important for someone, whether they're living in an ADU or a regular dwelling, is that they have all the rights and they have all the space that somebody who would be living in a regular unit would have. And I think this addresses that. I think the fact that we would be out of compliance would kind of confuses things a little bit. I obviously don't want to do that, but I just wanted to voice that those are things that I like about this, and perhaps maybe we can bring this back with a version that does comply with the state's regulations.
Yes, we have to bring it back with a version that complies with the state's regulations. Counselor Healy, did you have something?
I did, yeah. So I will say, I think this citizens petition was very well organized, well put together. The language was very clear. I like the fact that the language was clear on what should be expected. But I will also stand on, I'm going to vote no against this for the following reason. One, most of the emails I've received about this, are asking us to wait till the state regulations come out to make any decisions. So I think it would be kind of prudent of us to wait and kind of say, okay, let's wait and see what the state says. And if there is some leeway that gives us the capabilities to enact some of this language to still protect that, the landscape and the open space of the properties, let's work together to make sure we're doing the right thing for Greenfield, right? So I'm a no on this for now, but I definitely want to see the state regs and see what we can do to protect Greenfield. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I also a no. I mean, we obviously have to comply with state law, so that's number one. Getting a legal opinion is, a key aspect of our consideration here. I also think that the petition, well, I agree. I think it was very well organized, and I totally hear that a lot of people have concerns about ADUs and open space and all of those things. I think that we can address a lot of those concerns, and the bigger package of ADU and zoning regulations that we're probably talking about next month. I do think this petition, the issue that I have with it is that the threshold is so high, and I think that this is where the legal opinion comes from. The threshold is so high that almost no one in Greenfield would be able to build ADUs.
Yeah.
Right. And I actually think that we need some we need housing of all kinds. If a few ADUs are built in Greenfield, because it probably wouldn't be more than that, that contributes something to the, availability of housing. So I do want us to make it possible somehow. And I do think that we can work together to find some common ground on regulations. I also think there are a lot of things that people can do on their property right now that we don't regulate at all. So it's interesting to me that we're like so focused on getting really specific about what ADUs can and can't be and what kind of properties they can and can't be on. When I think it's just like a piece of a much bigger puzzle when we're talking about land use and housing. So that's where I am. I'm going to vote no on this for now, and I look forward to the conversation next month about the bigger picture of ADUs. Right.
Thanks. I mean, I'm also going to vote no on this. The part that I have the hardest time about this petition is the element where it kind of discounts the pre-existing dimensional requirements, setbacks, open space requirements, because those, and it's similar with, ultimately the motion to reconsider about the multifamily dwelling unit limit. We have restrictions on what can be built on properties, and they're different per district. So we have a 40% open space requirement that is true in every district, so just rewinding a little bit. The first thing, as far as ADU zoning changes with me putting, forward with Eric, just a simple change that would change from special permit to by right. And then the state passed their law, and we have to comply with the state's law. Going from special permit to by right would have made it easier to build these things. There are not going to be many of them because they are expensive, as some of the folks in this room have noted many times. But I genuinely don't understand. And this is the part where I hope some of the citizens who signed this petition can help me, why they don't believe that 40% open space is going to be maintained regardless. And so to me, I'm a little suspicious of this, especially, I heard Mr. Norman talking about, being open to different acreage requirements. To me, it's not necessary because we already have requirements for what can be built. You can build a garage, that's an accessory unit, that's housing for cars. We had an 18% rise in homelessness last year. Why do we are allowing housing for automobiles with no problem, no blinking, and not allowing housing for people? The other thing is like, you can have a duplex, you can have a triplex by right. You can have a single family home and an ADU that's 2 housing units in the same lot. And again, the open space is going to be the same. So if open space is the concern, then we have, it already exists. We have the open space regulation. We have setback regulations. I've heard somebody in this room say they're going to creep up to the lines of properties. They cannot because the regulations don't allow them to. So there's been a tremendous amount of misinformation about this. And, I view this as a shadow ban and an example of malicious compliance or an attempt at malicious compliance. I don't truly believe that the folks who initiated this, and I don't think that's true of everyone who signed it. I think there's good reasons to be fearful of your neighborhood being changed and being overcrowded, etc. But this petition as it stands right now, I don't think has any goal of solving the affordable housing crisis. I think it has the goal of keeping ADUs from being built. And that's going to be true if it's a quarter acre, half acre, whatever it is. And by my lights, we should stick with a conversation that's clear. What do we want our neighborhoods to look like? How far should the setbacks be? What should the dimensions allowed? How much open space should be allowed? And then everybody can be clear. Muddying the waters by talking about like destroying people's gardens because somebody built an ADU on the house next door. And that lady who keeps showing up and talking about how she's afraid an ADU is going to be built on her lot. Like it's, I hope we can have a clear conversation as we go forward. And so I look forward to that as well.
That will be next month.
Yep. So go there.
Something to look forward to.
Yes, see you there. So if you are in favor of order number FY 25-026, which I read at the beginning of this, you would vote yes. If you are not in favor, you would vote no. Counselor Garrett.
No.
Counselor Gordon.
No.
Counselor Gilly.
No.
Counselor Minhas.
I'll abstain.
Okay. Great. That will have a negative recommendation. Okay, and next,
Can I say something?
you cannot, Al, I'm sorry.
The vote is over.
I'm sorry, Al, you can't. It's not public
Well,
comment,
so-
and you're not a member of this committee. I'm sorry, Al. I give you a lot of time, but it's not tonight.
Then don't talk about conversations with us. If you can't,
We are gonna move on to zoning,
Mary,
the
you can't
roof
have a conversation.
issue. No, I can't have a conversation during a
Have a
meeting. Al.
conversation with us, that's. what
Al,
we'd
I
like to
can't have
see.
a conversation during a public
This is
meeting.
part of the problem. It's exactly what's wrong with
You
you.
should go change the way that public meetings work in
Well,
the state of
I
Massachusetts.
couldn't agree with you more, but don't lecture us about it.
Okay.
We should wait till the end of the meeting and.
Yeah, I told you, I'm happy to talk with you after this
We
meeting.
can't have it, we
At the
can't.
end of the meeting, you could talk to us.
All right, we're moving on to order number FY 25-028. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200 zoning by adding the following. RB suburban residential and RA urban residential would have no allowance for roosters, no matter the acres. Limited chickens would be allowed 10. RD rural residential would allow chickens and limited roosters on land 5 acres in size. And further amends the table of contents and index of the code. And further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. This is a majority vote required.
Second.
Okay, so this is also a citizen petition that we received, so we actually don't necessarily have to move on this month. We have until March, I believe, for this one. But this one also is not in compliance and would violate a section of our current law and statutes regarding right to farm. I did reach out to the lead petitioner on this to see if he was willing to withdraw or if he had sought resolution through the process that's laid out in the right to farm language, but I did not hear back unless I missed that email somehow, but I don't think I did. So I am going to vote no on this because I did not seek a legal opinion, but I did read the language many times and I believe that it is not in compliance and would violate our current statute. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for the petitioner, the lead petitioner on this especially. And he's someone in my precinct. We've talked about this issue. But I similarly, we're not in compliance with state law if we pass this, so that is clearly a problem. And I think the bigger picture, what this brings up to me is something that has been kind of thrown around a lot, which is some kind of noise ordinance or enforceable regulation that actually gets at the bigger issue here. Like, I don't love the idea of city council regulating, roosters and like this dog and that, whatever, right? Like, I think that the bigger issue at play here is noise and people being able to sleep in peace, live their lives in relative peace while living in a city. But, with respect to their neighbors and, not being woken up at 4 a.m. and no one wants to be woken up at 4 a.m. So I completely understand that. And I hope that we can find a more holistic and compliant way to ensure that. So I'm going to vote no on this.
Anyone else? Opinions, roosters?
Yeah, I really felt for David when he was talking about it, but I like people have a right to farm, and it's a little disheartening if they can't come to some sort of a compromise of like, hey, this is disturbing me with my personal life. Can you please, make some changes? And the person just doesn't want to. Perhaps I don't like what Council Gordon was just saying. Perhaps the city council isn't the proper avenue for this, or maybe something like the health department can be involved, or some other department. But yeah, this is just one of those sticky situations, so I'll probably vote no.
So everything that Counselor Minhas and Counselor Gordon said makes sense to me, and I feel so bad for him too. It's just an awful situation. I wonder if, I don't think this particular zoning change could be something that we do based on the legal, issues with farm law, right to farm law. But I wonder if we could regulate setbacks or something like that. Like the chicken coop must be at least whatever the noise of a rooster can carry is away from another residence or something like that.
I think
You know,
there
chickens are
was-
mobile, right?
Yeah, that's true. But like, the truth,
I
like,
think there is language in there about like,
oh, where the coop can be.
yeah, but it's not very far from
Yeah.
the property line.
Yeah,
I might be, I mean, I looked at other towns, I might be messing it up, but I'm pretty sure there is language, but it's not. I mean, I hear roosters that are definitely multiple houses away from me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, it's, and the noise ordinance, issue, like there's the Department of Environmental Protection regulations about noise, so it does exist. The
Mhm.
problem is enforcement.
mhm.
It's gotta be somebody. The police
Right.
probably don't want to do it because they don't want to be showing up for every rooster, like, and they have better things to do, obviously, but who's gonna do it? Is it the health department showing up and being with a noise meter?
Yeah.
Is it the fire department? Like,
Or animal, is animal control gonna go
Right.
chase this rooster down that lives on the railroad tracks?
but I think Counselor Gordon's broader point about noise in general is
Right.
something that we've heard even in our brief, term on the city council a lot, and it's legitimate.
Yeah,
If your peace and quiet is being disturbed, like that's not something that you can get over easily because your peace and quiet is disturbed. So yeah, I don't have a solution, but I definitely agree that that's work the council needs to consider and continue considering. So,
yeah.
I'm
Similar
fine.
to the noise, I hear about it with Jake breaks,
Yeah.
like going up and down Mountain
Yeah.
Road.
Yeah.
People complain about that a lot.
Yeah.
Is a Jake break down shit? That's on big tractor trailers. right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when they come up like Mountain Road to avoid the bridges
Oh,
on
yeah.
Hope Street and Montague City, they'll come up Mountain and down Maple.
You hear that?
It's so bad on people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So I've had a number of complaints about that, and a noise ordinance would potentially impact use of Jake break and.
Yeah, or at the very least, a enabling mechanism for the state regulations,
Yeah.
right? Which is effectively this one's.
Right, but we have to have the police enforce it, which is like, are
Or
they gonna?
someone enforce it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a conversation maybe with the mayor too.
Yeah. Okay, anyone else, or do we feel ready to vote on this? Okay, a yes would be a positive recommendation and a no would be a negative. Counselor Garrett,
No,
Counselor Gordon,
No.
Counselor Healy,
No.
Counselor Minhas.
No.
Okay. So unanimous. Okay. We have nothing under discussion. Our next meeting will be February 11th, 2025 at 6 PM, City Hall Meeting Room, second floor, and on Zoom hybrid as well. I will take a motion to adjourn. So move.
second,
Roll call. Counselor Garrett,
yes, with bells on.
Counselor Gordon.
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, meeting is adjourned
Thanks,
at
everybody.
7 PM on the dot.